Around 50,000 GM workers are striking for a second day after their union, the United Auto Workers, and GM failed to make a deal on wages and benefits. 31% of GM workers are on strike right now, costing the company $200 million a week, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Let me show you what's really going on behind the scenes. Look, GM's in big trouble. Their sales are dropping, costs are going up, and their big plans aren't working out. It's worse than you think. Here's the thing, GM's dealing with a perfect storm of problems that most people don't see. Now, you might be thinking, I don't own a GM car, so why should I care? Well, let me tell you, this isn't just about GM. What's happening here could change everything about how we buy and own cars, even if you've never touched a Chevy. This is going to hit your wallet. Trust me, you're going to want to know what's coming. Remember those shiny new trucks at the dealership? It turns out they're part of GM's big problem. Here's the kicker. Some of their most expensive vehicles are actually costing them money. Let's break down why this matters to you. GM's facing a perfect storm of issues, and it's not just about the strike. Their costs are skyrocketing, and it's hitting them where it hurts, their profit margins. We're talking about rising prices for materials, labor, you name it, and guess what? They can't just pass all those costs on to you, the customer, without losing sales. Now, you'd think selling high-end trucks for $90,000 or more would be a goldmine, right? Well, that's where things get interesting. GM has been focusing on these premium vehicles, like the High Country truck and the Z71 2500, thinking they'd make bank, but here's the thing, it's not working out like they planned. Despite charging luxury car prices for these trucks, GM is still struggling to cover their production costs. It's like they're running on a treadmill that's speeding up. They keep raising prices, but their costs are rising even faster, and now they're sitting on a mountain of unsold inventory. What's happening is GM's caught in a tricky spot. They're trying to keep prices high to cover their costs, but that's pushing away buyers. And with all the competition out there, people have options. They're not just going to fork over 90 grand for a truck if they don't think it's worth it. Here's where it gets real for you. GM's pricing strategy is backfiring, and it could lead to fewer affordable options down the line. Think about it. If they can't make money on their expensive trucks, how are they going to offer cheaper models? This isn't just a GM problem. It's a sign of what's happening in the whole car market. But wait, there's more. GM's not just struggling with their gas guzzlers. They're losing money on their electric vehicles, too. Their CFO, Paul Jacobson, actually admitted they're not expecting to make a profit on EVs until late 2024. And it's not like the competition is standing still. In China, companies like BYD are cranking out affordable electric cars that people actually want to buy. Meanwhile, GM's stuck trying to figure out how to make money on both their traditional vehicles and their new electric ones. Look, GM's trying everything they can to turn this ship around. They've even bumped up their advertising budget by $400 million, but get this, that's still less than what they spent last year. It's like they're trying to yell louder in a room that's getting noisier. The auto market is changing fast, and GM's old playbook just isn't cutting it anymore. They've been relying on these high-margin, gas-powered vehicles for so long, but now that strategy is looking shaky. People want electric cars, they want affordable options, and GM's struggling to deliver on both fronts. Now, you'd think GM would be all in on electric vehicles to keep up with the times. Well, they are, but it's not going as smoothly as they hoped. What if I told you their EV sales are barely a drop in the bucket of their total sales? We're talking a measly 3.2%. That's right, all those fancy new electric models you see advertised aren't exactly flying off the lots. GM's got this big plan to go all electric by 2035. It sounds impressive, doesn't it? But here's the catch. Their CEO, Mary Barra, is already hinting that this timeline might change.
Why?
Because they're realizing that customer demand isn't quite matching up with their ambitious goals. Let's break this down. GM was aiming to produce 400,000 electric vehicles, but they've had to scale that back to somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 units. And even with that lower target, they're still struggling. Their EV deliveries might be up 40%, but when that only accounts for 3.2% of total sales, you've got a problem. So, what's going on here? GM's facing some serious competition in the EV market. You've got Tesla dominating in the US and companies like BYD offering more affordable options in places like China. In fact, GM reported a $14 million loss in China because local players are beating them at their own game. But it's not just about competition. GM's got a bigger issue. They're losing money on every electric vehicle they sell. Now, you might be thinking, why don't they just make cheaper EVs? Well, that's where things get tricky. GM's been focusing on high-end electric vehicles, thinking they could make more money that way, but it turns out that strategy might be backfiring. People want electric cars, sure, but they also want affordable options, and right now, GM's not really delivering on that front. This puts GM in a tough spot. They're trying to balance their EV ambitions with the need to keep making gas-powered vehicles. Why? Because those traditional cars and trucks are still their bread and butter. They need that cash flow to fund their electric dreams. But here's the kicker. While GM's trying to figure out this balancing act, the whole auto market is changing around them. People's buying habits are shifting, the demand for different types of vehicles is evolving, and GM? They're struggling to keep up. Stuck in the middle trying to keep one foot in the past and one in the future. So what does all this mean for you? Well, if you're in the market for a new car, you might find that your options are changing. GM struggles could lead to fewer affordable models down the line, and if they can't make their EV strategy work, we might see a shakeup in the entire auto industry. Now, you'd think with all these challenges, GM would be bending over backward to keep customers happy. But here's the kicker. They're doing something that's pushing loyal fans away faster than a sports car off the starting line, and it all comes down to one word: trust. Check this out. GM's reliability scores are in the basement. We're talking a measly 3.5 out of 5.0 on dependability and an even worse 42 out of 100 from Consumer Reports. That's not just bad. It's why would anyone buy this bad? But it gets worse. Ever wonder why your trusted mechanic suddenly can't fix certain issues with your GM car? It's not because they've lost their touch. GM's got this new trick up their sleeve: proprietary software that controls vehicle repairs. What does that mean for you? It means only GM-authorized service centers can work on your car, unless your local mechanic shells out big bucks for access to GM's repair tools and info. Think about it. You buy a car, you should be able to take it to any mechanic you trust, right? Not with GM. They're forcing you back to their dealerships for repairs, leaving independent mechanics out in the cold. It's like buying a house and being told you can only use one specific plumber for the rest of your life. But wait, there's more. Remember when your car was just a car? Now, it's basically a computer on wheels, and GM's collecting data like it's going out of style. Here's the scary part. According to Mozilla, 92% of car brands, including GM, don't let you control your personal data that their vehicles collect. What's the big deal, you ask? Well, imagine someone knowing everywhere you go, when you go there, and how long you stay. That's just the tip of the iceberg. This data could lead to all sorts of problems. We're talking identity theft, insurance rate hikes, even government surveillance. It's like having a stalker that you're paying for the privilege of being followed by. Look, GM's not the only one doing this, but they're sure not helping themselves.